I'm just, you were talking to Charles LeBlanc earlier. Do you really think it's just that he's banned from the legislature when he's not a physical threat to anyone? And democracy is supposed to have freedom of speech, freedom of the press, and freedom of information. So what do you think about having him not being able to actually come and do his
I can't
work?
really comment on that because I can't give you my personal opinion as far as the law is concerned.
Okay.
My role in society is simply to enforce the law.
Right.
I can use discretion. As far as commenting on individual cases, I can't do that.
Okay. If you're there to enforce the law, why don't you guys ever arrest him when he comes on the ground? I mean, I know that probably the reason is because the lawsuit won't work. The government knows they can't actually do anything to him.
Are you asking me or are you telling me?
I'm asking you on your opinion. I just gave my opinion.
So what's the question?
The question is, why don't you arrest him when he's on the ground?
Have you ever heard of the old adage, discretion is the better part of valor?
Yeah.
And that's why. Because sometimes discretion is the better part of valor.
Okay.
Because as far as the law is concerned as well, there's nothing to absolutely say that I have to arrest, that I shall arrest,
right,
unless it's a warrant. And then our discretion is taken away at that point because the judiciary or the judges say you shall arrest. So at that point, a police officer or a peace officer doesn't have discretion. But in most other cases, as far as the law is concerned, with different offenses, be it trespassing, a provincial statute, all the way up to criminal code offenses and federal statutes, a police officer has his discretion whether or not he's going to arrest.
So what would warrant an arrest?
What would warrant an arrest? First of all, in any case, you'd have to have grounds to believe that an offense was being committed, whether again it was trespass or assault or whatever the case. And secondly, what you would have to have is you would have to believe that the public interest or the public interest elements were not being met. That is, for instance, if I believe that you had committed an assault, I had those grounds to believe that you did that, and now all of a sudden I thought that you weren't going to attend court, or I couldn't ascertain your identity. I believed if you were going to continue the assault, if I didn't arrest you, or in order for me to secure or preserve other evidence. As a result of that, I'd probably have to arrest you, right? To make sure that all those public interest elements are referred to would be met. Once they were all met, then I'd release you.
Okay. One more question. Time and time again, he's been warned. So if he's constantly trespassing, when's the time to draw the line where you've been warned enough?
And all I can tell you is I can't comment specifically on any one case. All I can give you is hypothetically, if somebody's committing certain offenses again, once again the same discretionary powers are going to apply. I would have to have grounds to believe that somebody was committing an offense, and then once again I would have to believe that, okay, these public interest elements weren't being met, and if they weren't met, then I could arrest.
Okay.
But again, discretion is the better part of valor, so it's up to an individual police officer's discretionary powers to determine whether or not they're going to make that arrest.
Okay.
Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Right? And their discretionary powers, my belief, my discretion is going to be a little bit different perhaps from yours or another police officer's. Right? And again, it all depends on the situational factors. For instance, if somebody commits an assault and they're in the middle of a demonstration, well, the officer might say to themselves, okay, I'm not going to affect the arrest there because what's going to happen is it's going to provoke a larger confrontation.
Right.
Whereas that same situation where there's an assault, let's say, for instance, now it's at a private home and there's only, say, a husband and wife there, that's going to be, okay, a different situation, and they're going to say, okay, now we need to effect an arrest there.
Okay.
So you've got to look at the situational factors as well, officers' discretionary powers, and determine whether or not they're going to meet all those elements of the public interest for the arrest to take place. I know that sounds quite complicated, but believe it or not, that's what a police officer has to take into effect when they exercise those powers to arrest.
Okay.